Hello and welcome to Vision Denial. My name is Sam. If you're new here, well, we review all international competition regarding League of Legends. I watched every single playoff for the summer season of 2022, yes, including that one, all 383 games. And day 3 today was really interesting. And by really interesting, I mean, God, stop, they're all dead already. So many teams, they're just dead. Leave them alone. No, we're not like that. To say the least, we say goodbye to 3 teams for the World Championship. And with it, only one more team left to go before we know who are in the best of 5. And then we know who has to skip the whole thing. Because I think there's some tiebreakers. But that's for tomorrow. Today we've got some interesting takes on how to deal with Aatrox. Just a lot of really bizarre games in general. Like a Teemo top with Saigon mid. Like, why? Without further ado, let's just go and review some of the games. All of which, by the way, all of my particular reviews, you'll find in TikTok in the link below. Let's just get it started. First game of the day, we've got Loud versus Fnatic. Who could have seen this coming? The hopefuls in Brazil and North America who remember the stories of Kaboom. Do it for Kaboom. There are a few things to mention here. The draft from Fnatic created a scenario that required a guaranteed early game win with 0 issues. And second, Loud moved around in the early game with the right steps but could not keep up in gold generation to make the most of all of their excellent early game moves. This leads to what I think is a potential coin flip scenario where both teams who create the most moves with proper execution just wins. And both sides recognize this perfectly, using their time to set up vision, manage waves to create these plays. Just overall, all of the necessary steps were done. But for every 1 play that Fnatic would do, Loud would have 5. The non-stop aggression became too much for Fnatic, and Loud stayed consistent in their push. I would do with some better vision denial out of Loud, but Fnatic couldn't really approach them this game, so it doesn't matter. My MVP is Seos, who was the catalyst this game for creating the mini plays and controlled the team fights that Loud would win. We've got the second game of the day with Mad Lions versus Saigon Buffalo. And one of the closest games stylistically and in skill, where Mad had a lot of utility and survivability built into their draft, while Saigon Buffalo had a lot more crowd control and burst damage. It all came down to teamfight execution. I say that because both teams had excellent vision, solid wave management, and great approaches to the neutral objectives. Any tiny differences that would be seen from laning phase was from champion matchup, and while I liked the Buffalo's drafts more, Mad Lions executed theirs better and more consistently. Both teams approached the game with the right kind of proactivity, and we should expect solid things from both of them if this is the kind of games we get from them in the future. But only if this is the kind of games we get from them in the future. Their inconsistencies are still to be noted. My MVP for this game is Unforgiven, who had perfect, and I mean literally perfect, positioning this whole game and provided the most amount of healing and shields. Our third game of the day was MegaBank Beyond Gaming versus Detonation. Focus Me. And Beyond Gaming had a solid early game, but the win condition out of Detonation Focus Me were brought to attention and nurtured more. I think the vision and neutral play from both sides were excelled, were excellent. But as Detonation Focus Me kept following the steps to succeed, Beyond Gaming only waited for moments where mistakes were committed. By all means, Beyond Gaming had the stronger draft and scaling conditions. But without knowing where to prioritize your play, all you'll be doing is losing out to the proactive team. And Detonation Focusing was definitely the proactive team. And for their part, was so willing to make any plays that some bit them in the butt, while in the end it seemed like there was too much hesitation to close out a game that they for sure had control over. I hope that that Detonation Focus Me corrects some of the more aggressive tendencies, or they could find some issues during the best of 5 portion if they qualify. My MVP goes to Evie, whose presence disrupted any game plan that could have come from Beyond Gaming. Our fourth game of the day was Evil Geniuses versus the Chiefs. This was really one-sided. The Chiefs have had continuous issues regarding playing the early game, as their laners or all of the roles just can't keep up with their opponents. And that is not to say that the Chiefs don't know how to play out the rest of the game, because they do. Their incredible vision application, understanding of neutral setups and when to contest, proper movements towards their win conditions and how to navigate around the map. But when you face an opponent who can do all of that and every role outplays you in the laning phase to a point where you can't even play either standard, scaling, comfort, bazaar, then what do you do at this point? Evil Geniuses played this a little fast and loose in some sections, really emphasizing pressure, but the way they ballooned gold, suffocated resources out of Chiefs, and accelerated the tempo, given the lead that they had, leaves me slightly hopeful at the prospects of their future games, given they didn't just delay the game needlessly. My MVP vote could have been to any player, but Inspired created the largest gap between the roles and influenced all of the other ones, so it goes to him. It's our fifth game of the day. We've got Royal Never Give Up versus Isurus Gaming. What's there to really talk about in this situation? Isurus picked Teemo top and Saigon mid in a matchup that was really already super difficult. They have a lot going on for the but like in this position, they don't look like they are heading to the best of 5 portion of the tournament. They'll be joining the Wildcats in that regard, really. The Royal Never Give Up, for their part, saw what was up and attacked the game as is, not letting it get to them, with some clean vision and incredible pacing in the early game, letting 0 neutrals go, and yet they slowed down for some reason while being 15k ahead at 20 minutes. Royals, we need to see stronger decisiveness out of you past the mid game. Otherwise, this was just clean and one-sided from them, which is good. My MVP goes to Wei, who set up the entire early game lead, really. Our sixth game of the day is the Chiefs versus Beyond Gaming. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, who at this moment are eliminated. There's so much to like about their approach, the vision play, map movement, and general understanding of win conditions. And I keep repeating it, but it's true. The Chiefs however, can't just approach their early game issues around laning and early, in general, skirmishes. Because if they did have that working, the rest of their approach would be on par with some of the other teams in the Playins. And these teams know how to answer the obvious plays from the Chiefs, as they can't get away from these sloppy, aggressive approaches. This was the closest looking game for them, as Beyond Gaming played a more measured approach, waiting mostly on the mistakes from the Chiefs to make, and especially as they make their plays. but they didn't really rely on any errors. Making sure to set up neutrals in their favors and really like planning out their steps. They picked up what they needed to get their win conditions and ended the game cleanly. This game is a good showing from them, who are in a dicey position regarding the standings. But my MVP here goes to Husha, who influenced so much of the map early game and caused the Chiefs to chase after them for these plays. And it's our 7th game of the day with Royal Never Give Up versus DenizBank Istanbul Wildcats. And the Royals played this like it's a formality and with the utmost respect, which is something to say at any given point for the Royals that could have been much more aggressive at any given point of this game. On the side of the Wildcats, their vision was solid and their understanding of the pace of the game was super excellent. The issue comes when all of your roles fall behind and you aren't sure how to answer anything your opponent does. The Wildcats have a strong sense of team fighting, as shown in that one late game fight that almost double aced. But when anything else about the game, like when every other thing you start up to snuff, it becomes disheartening to watch, really. The Royals are showing consistency regarding strong early and very slow late game, which will matter when facing the Buffaloes tomorrow, as they won't let them be slow intentionally. My MVP for this game goes to Gala, who had such an impressive approach to these team fights. Our last game of the day, we've got Isurus Gaming versus DRX. Isurus put up one heck of a fight in this last game of the day, showing superb angles of approach, solid vision, and proper priorities to their win conditions. But DRX had other plans in mind, being significantly more proactive, stronger vision, individual players, just stronger role for role. And it didn't seem to matter how good their approach was regarding the draft. They were just lost. And situations like this are rather heartbreaking for Isurus, who are showing glimmers of brilliance against a barrage of power that just would not stop. DRX seem almost guaranteed in my mind to skip the best of 5 stage and just enter group stage entirely at this point. It's just a matter just of how cleanly in their last game for tomorrow. Isurus, you've shown so much improvement since spring. It's great. I hope you're even better next year. My MVP for this match is Beryl, who managed to live through events he shouldn't have at all and created all the success tools for his team. Today was just a great way to segue into like the strengths of teams who are ballooned, let's say, by their regional prowess. Isurus had an incredible go in their playoffs and seemed unstoppable for many of their games. Chiefs looked or were unstoppable within their own region, and the Wildcats just in general have been such a dominant force within their own region that at this point it seemed clear to me that if they don't have the talent to challenge any other team consistently, whoever is being sent over, just it doesn't matter. They're going to get rolled over. They don't have the experience to play from behind, or whatever experience they do have from playing behind is not from like being stomped while in the laning phase. And it also brings into light a lot of the shortcomings from it, because it's really good looking at these different teams coming from different regions and then just assuming that they'll fail. Like in the example of Loud on paper with a lot of different things looked like they were not going to make it through. But if you had paid attention to their playoff run or paid attention to their growth in general, you would have noticed like a consistency towards their neutral objectives, a consistency throughout their drafts, how they approach coordination and team fight, how they approach vision that could rival in a way how other teams internationally would come in. Do we expect them to go very far? No. But we definitely see now that a lot of these teams who looked incredibly dominant within the region are in an echo chamber and need to be seen as such. We'll move on from that because, unfortunately, the Wildcats, Chiefs, and Isurus are all eliminated. The Chiefs, Wildcats and Isurus only play each other, so it'll be much more of an exposition game to see which of the two for pride. One of them has to go, with one win. Well, as the Chief, if I remember correctly, just as I look at the schedule for tomorrow, the Chiefs play against Loud, and we'll have a chance to show that maybe Loud isn't as solid as people are expecting. I doubt it. Loud has been really solid, but that's the current situation we're in. One of the things I also want to look here is the way that the meta has been rolling around. Aatrox stays at 100% presence. And I think personally that has to change somehow, right? The top lane meta can't be optional one for side lane pressure that maybe comes into teamfight. That feels wrong in some sense. Like, it cannot be just that. Now, of course, the utility that it brings and the survivability and that you can play strong and weak side with it, it has such an amount of tools that it is understandable why it has so much. But the fact that there are so little answers that exist to it, and that the whatever answers came in were theoretical at best from Champions Queue. Let's see the Teemo and the God, I can't. Those games were not good, to say the least. Because in the grand scheme of it all, having Garens, having any of these weird mid-scions are fundamentally like just an answer to, or just a symptom of, what happens when there's such a huge gap of skill. And there has to be something else, that like some other investment has to exist within these regions. It cannot be continuously going, hey, we're going to have these smaller regions come in from two worlds to possibly shake things up, and then only rarely shake things up. It can't be like that. And I understand there's the system here for like why Vietnam has 2 seeds and so on and so forth. I'm just wondering, is there any other solution long term? There has to be, right? Because we can't have a situation where all of a sudden the PCS becomes like an emerging region. It can't get to that point. Otherwise, we're just going to keep getting really unfortunate matchups year after year where the smaller regions just come in disappointed. And only occasionally with some success. But those are my thoughts from the very depressing, like exciting but slightly depressing day, because a lot of these smaller teams are excellent on paper. It's just that the individual players don't get a lot of practice against peers who would be at their level, because all of the other ones that they work with or that they practice with just don't hold up. Is the unfortunate nature of it all. But those are my thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Any and all thoughts would be super appreciated. That on top of it, if you have any, if you enjoy any other videos like this, I've got the whole meet the teams, all the teams that are qualified to Worlds, and over here, or I don't remember which direction editing me will deal with it, will be the other every other video regarding Worlds that I've made so far. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Worlds has been exciting, quick-paced for the most part. And part of my fears are being met, but I am hopeful that at least groups looks more competitive. But we have yet to see how Playins ends. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.